She stood in the hallway of her house. Both locked doors were open. Inside Ezekiel's room, the walls were covered with symbols drawn in dark, dried stains. Shapes twisted and repeated endlessly. Something tall stood in the corner, bent backward at an unnatural angle. Inside Mariam's room, the bed was empty. The walls were breathing. She woke screaming. That morning was when the gas incident happened. 2 boys arrived at the gas plant, both about 18, students newly admitted to the nearby university. They laughed, joked, and argued about football as they waited. Adesola told them to wait. "My husband and niece are at the back," she said. She walked toward the back with her baby in her arms. When she reached them, she spoke casually. "There are 2 boys who need gas." Mariam immediately reached for the baby. "I'll hold him," she said. Ezekiel walked forward. The moment his voice reached the boys, one of them froze, his face drained of color. "Brother?" the boy whispered. Ezekiel turned and vanished. Not faded, not ran, vanished, like smoke sucked backward. The other boy saw Mariam and also screamed, "Sister!" Mariam disappeared too. Adesola felt her knees buckle. The baby slipped from her arms as darkness swallowed her. When she woke, the gas plant was surrounded by people. The other boy was crying uncontrollably. The first boy had fainted. Confusion turned quickly into accusation. Ritualists, kidnappers. Where are they? When the fainted boy regained consciousness, his voice shook. "That man, that was my brother," he cried. "He died 6 years ago." The second boy spoke through tears. "That girl, she was my sister. She died 6 years ago on her way back from printing her admission letter. Phones were brought out, pictures shown, burial posters, Facebook pages. Dates matched. The town went silent. Fear replaced anger. The police were called. Investigations began. The wife was taken away. The child cried endlessly. Arowa Town did not sleep for 7 nights after Ezekiel and Mariam vanished. Even those who claimed they felt nothing found themselves waking suddenly at odd hours, hearts pounding for no clear reason. Dogs howled endlessly at night, staring toward the abandoned bungalow at the edge of town. Chickens refused to enter certain corners of compounds. Children cried in their sleep, whispering names they did not know. The town elders called it after silence. The kind of silence that follows something terrible, not because noise has ended, but because sound itself is afraid to return. On the 3rd day after the incident, the police sealed the house. 2 officers entered during daylight. They did not last 10 minutes. The younger one vomited in the compound. The older one came out pale, wiping sweat from his face despite the cool air. Inside, the house smelled wrong. Not rot, not blood. Something older. Like damp earth sealed away too long. Every clock in the house was stopped at 9 p.m. Not broken, stopped. The doors to Ezekiel's and Mariam's rooms were locked. The officers broke them open. Inside Ezekiel's room, the walls were covered in symbols drawn with something dark and flaky. Later tests confirmed it was a mixture of blood, charcoal, and ash. The bed had no mattress, only a wooden frame carved with the same symbols. In Mariam's room, there were no symbols, just one thing. A mirror, tall, wide, cracked down the middle, facing the bed. The officers swore they heard breathing while inside. They denied it afterward, but both submitted transfer requests the same week. The police station overflowed with questions. The two university boys were brought back with their parents. When Ezekiel's family came to see the baby, they came with shame and grief written all over their faces. They brought gifts, money, clothes, but none of it eased the pain. His elder brother knelt before Adesola. "We are sorry," he said, tears streaming down his face. "We did not know his spirit was still wandering." Adesola said nothing. She watched them carry the baby Ezekiel's son and cried until her body shook. Records confirmed everything. Death certificates, burial photographs, hospital reports. Ezekiel had died 6 years earlier, crushed under a truck while returning from the bank after paying fees to start a gas plant under his employer's guidance. Mariam had died 6 years earlier, hit by a speeding vehicle while returning from printing her university admission letter. Different cities, different families, same year, same month, same week. Both bodies were buried. Both funerals were attended, and yet for 3 years they had lived in Arowa Town, paid rent, paid taxes, spoke to people, touched people, worked. No one could explain it. The case file was marked unresolved unnatural circumstances, then quietly closed. Adesola did not return to the house. She barely spoke for weeks. She stared at walls, at shadows, at her sleeping child. Her parents said she woke at night screaming Ezekiel's name not in fear, but in warning. Doctors prescribed rest. Prayer houses demanded deliverance. Nothing helped. What frightened her family most was what she said about Samuel. "He knows them," she whispered one night. "He still sees them." The baby laughed at empty spaces, reached for corners, sometimes said his first word in his sleep, "Mama," but Mariam had always made him say that. Samuel grew faster than normal. By 8 months, he stood. By 10, he walked. By 1 year, he spoke in full sentences. At night, only at night, he spoke to someone unseen. Adesola heard him whisper, "Uncle, stop, please lock the door." "Mariam, it's morning." The family priest demanded the child be taken away from Arowa. They relocated Adesola far from the town. New house, new business, new name. But Samuel carried Arowa inside him. On his 2nd birthday, he drew symbols on the wall with charcoal. Perfect copies. No one taught him. When asked where he learned them, he replied with a smile. It was only then that the elders spoke. They revealed something buried long before Ezekiel arrived. 6 years before Arowa ever learned his name, Ezekiel had been a living man. Not wicked, not cruel, just tired. 10 years he served his ogre faithfully at the gas company, lifting cylinders, inhaling fumes, sleeping on concrete floors, dreaming of a small business of his own. When his ogre finally settled him, Ezekiel believed his suffering had ended. That morning, he wore his best shirt. He carried documents carefully wrapped in nylon. He walked into the bank hopeful and walked out with plans. It was raining when he stepped onto the road. The truck driver never saw him. Witnesses said Ezekiel didn't scream. He didn't try to run. He only looked up. The impact killed him instantly. But Ezekiel did not leave. They buried his body. They mourned. But Ezekiel remained on the road, confused, furious, and unfinished. He watched strangers step over the place where he died, watched life continue, watched opportunity rot. That was when the land spoke, not in words, in invitation, a whisper beneath the asphalt. You are not done. If you are willing, you may finish. Ezekiel followed the whisper. Mariam was 18. Her admission letter still smelled of fresh ink. She ran toward home laughing, dreaming aloud of hostels and lectures and a life that was finally beginning. The car came too fast. Her body flew. Her neck snapped. But Mariam did not feel pain. She felt confusion. Why now? Why here? Why, when she was almost free, they buried her in white? Her mother fainted. Her brother screamed until his voice broke. But Mariam remained on the roadside, watching blood dry, watching dreams leak into dust. She heard the whisper too. You are not finished. If you follow, you may continue. She followed, and the two spirits connected. The land beneath Arowa was older than the town. Long before roads, before houses, before gas plants, it had been a place where the living negotiated with the restless dead. Spirits who refused burial, souls that rejected endings. They were not demons. They were uncompleted people. The elders once sealed them away with rituals, but seals decay. And Ezekiel, angry, disciplined, desperate, fit perfectly. Mariam young, obedient, empty of resistance, followed easily. Together, they were taught rules. You may walk only in silence. You may sleep only when night locks itself. You may live, but not fully. And you must prepare an anchor, something living, something loved, something born. That was why Ezekiel locked his door at 9 p.m. That was why Mariam did the same. At night, they were no longer pretending. They shed borrowed flesh. Their rooms became places of instruction, of correction, of remembrance. The breathing Adesola heard was Ezekiel learning how to hold form. The dragging sound was Mariam returning from places walls could not contain. The knocking in the walls was the land checking its investment. They needed time. They needed strength. They needed a child. And for Adesola, she was chosen because she was kind, because she did not ask many questions, because she could love deeply. The child had to be born of trust. Samuel was never meant to die. He was meant to belong. When Mariam held him, she whispered to him in a language older than breath. That was why he slept. That was why he listened. That was why he remembered. The day Ezekiel and Mariam vanished at the gas plant was not a mistake. The dead cannot withstand being recognized by the living who remember their burial. Names break illusions. When the boys called them brother and sister, the borrowed skins collapsed. Ezekiel and Mariam were pulled back, not destroyed, but exposed. Years later, a rumor surfaced. Someone claimed to have seen a man and a young woman in a distant city, quiet, well-dressed, always together. They ran a small business. They avoided crowds. They never attended celebrations. And every night they returned home before 9 p.m. People argued endlessly about it. Some believed it. Some laughed. Some said the dead, once revealed, cannot stay long in one place. Others said the dead do not travel. They only appear where they are remembered. No one ever proved the rumor. In Arowa Town, certain things changed permanently. People no longer ignored strangers. They asked questions. They paid attention. No one mocked quiet people again. When someone lived too silently, too carefully, people watched not with suspicion, but with respect, because Arowa had learned something terrifying. Not all who walk among the living belong to the living. Some are just waiting for their names to be called at the wrong time. And when they answer, they disappear, leaving behind questions that no one is brave enough to ask again. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, like, and share.